There's an interesting, sometimes separate feeling world out there of amazing racing stories with interesting machinery and fantastic personalities around epic racing circuits that some of you maybe have never heard about. I'm of course talking about the world of two-wheel motorcycle racing. Now I know there's some crossover, and for some of you out there, this is your main thing, but I think it's fair to say that motorcycle racing as a whole is massively underrepresented in sim racing compared to that of the four-wheel variety. The reason for this, in my opinion, is pretty obvious. Riding a motorcycle is nothing like driving a car. You don't steer a motorcycle. You as the rider use your body and weight to move and command the motorcycle. And although sometimes it feels as though you become one with a racing car, and certainly in real life situations can use your weight to influence how the race car moves, it's on a totally different level with motorcycles. It's something that's incredibly hard to simulate accurately, and there are some controllers and devices out there which allow you to basically ride a motorcycle and control a different sim or game, but it's fair to say it's not something quite as accessible as driving a racing car with a steering wheel and pedals. So it's a shame that we don't quite get the same opportunities to drive and race motorcycles as we do cars, but there's several good simulators and games out there that do a great job at representing motorcycle racing. And this is one for me that has really been at the top of the list for quite a few years now. This is, of course, TT Isle of Man Ride on the Edge 2, developed by KT Racing, the same group that's been putting out the recent WRC titles. And this is the second, of course, of two TT Isle of Man games that KT Racing has done. The first one came out in 2018, and this one itself came out in 2020. A lot of folks were surprised when the second one came out, myself included, but I found that it actually does create quite a meaningful improvement over the first. Now, unlike a few of the other motorcycle sims/games that are out there, like MotoGP or Ride, which is more of a Forza of motorcycles, a very good game in its own right, Isle of Man has a very specific purpose. It's all about simulating the Isle of Man TT. I could wax poetic about the Isle of Man TT for hours on end, and this video will certainly include a little bit of that, but it absolutely was my introduction to the awesome world of motorcycle racing. I think I had a similar reaction to probably a lot of you when I first heard about the TT, and that I could not believe that this was still something that went on, and it's absolutely an awesome event. Coming from a fan of the Indianapolis 500 and that being such an important event for myself, I can confidently say that the Isle of Man TT is a breathtaking event unlike any other, a true harkening back to fast, raw, unprotected, really pure racing. Run on the Snaefell Mountain Circuit, 37 3/4 miles around the Isle of Man. The TT is a truly dangerous public road race, an anomaly in the age of safety. So the Isle of Man TT was the event for me that made the biggest impression and made me want to learn a lot more about motorcycle racing. And I had watched a little MotoGP and World Superbike, but it's when I got Mark Gardner's book, Riding Man, all about his experience preparing and learning and racing in the Isle of Man TT that I became somewhat obsessed with it. So when the first Isle of Man TT game came out in 2018, it was something I jumped on right away. Like many others, finally the full Isle of Man TT course was available in laser scan detail to race and to learn. And although both of these sims feature several other modes, career modes, and actually some other tracks as well, mostly fictional, but other road racing type circuits, I spent almost the entire time racing these just in time trial mode around the Isle of Man TT, trying to learn all the corners and do a fast lap without falling off the bike. The original version of this game was a lot of fun, but the second version here I've found to be better in pretty much every way, and I've seen some reviews online that aren't necessarily positive, and I'm not sure why. I'm sure for those that are really into motorcycle racing, you may have some complaints about it compared to some of the other games, but for myself, definitely a four-wheel racing fan with an interest in motorcycle racing, this absolutely scratches that itch, and I hope for some of you that may not have heard about it or hadn't seen it in a while, that this is interesting for you. So the list of improvements and changes between the first and second version is pretty long, but there's a couple that I see as the biggest ones. The first is around controls itself, which is really the big question with a motorcycle racing game. How do you control the bikes? And you can absolutely use a gamepad controller with pretty much any motorcycle game, and that seems to be what most people prefer. But what they've allowed you to do with Isle of Man 2 is actually use any kind of steering wheel and pedal combination that you would use for normal sim racing. It's very odd at first. I will be 100% honest. It's extremely odd controlling the bikes with a conventional steering wheel and pedals, but in my opinion, it's definitely a step up over a controller, and bar having a full arcade type setup where you can actually sit on some sort of motorcycle, which I know they exist, but bar having something like that, using a steering wheel itself makes something like this miles better. The second big improvement, and maybe most interesting for me, is the inclusion of some vintage classic bikes. The original game and this one both include the Superbike and Super Sport bikes of the modern day, or 2016 to now, but the second game here also includes some classic bikes, and you're looking at the MV Agusta 503. For any motorcycle fan, you probably know exactly what this is, but this is one of the most successful and famous bikes of the 1960s and early 70s. Introduced in 1966 and at the hands of Giacomo Agostini, the MV Agusta 500 won the World Constructors' Championship every year from 1967 through 1972. So in Isle of Man 2, they've included the bike in its final championship year form, 1972, the 3-cylinder 500cc Classic. This is one of 5 or so of the classic bikes in the sim, and maybe we'll take a look at some of the other ones at another time. But in my opinion, these classic bikes make the sim a lot more enjoyable for me. For one, they're fun to race, they look really cool, but they're also a bit slower naturally, and so lets you have a little more of a chance to survive on the Isle of Man. The new bikes are so quick, so racing the Super Sport or Super bikes themselves requires a lot of knowledge and practice. Something like this, a little bit easier and a lot more fun to kind of joyride around the circuit. So I've wanted to do something on 2 wheels for quite a while, and it feels like diving in the deep end with the Isle of Man is the right way to begin. So I'm going to do a lap of the full Isle of Man Snaefell Mountain course. Maybe not a super fast lap, but see if maybe we can go out there and do a 20-minute lap or so and just talk about the track, talk about the sim, and talk about how much fun and refreshing something like this really can be. Alright, so here we are in Douglas at the Isle of Man. On the front straightaway, I'm all the way back towards Governor's Bridge, which is at the very beginning of it, so we'll pass the start-finish line and everything ahead. But I've set up a time trial session, a perfect blue-skied, clear day, noon time, so just maximum visibility conditions so that I can show everybody the track. But you can actually set worse weather and evening or dawn times, which make it a completely different experience. But set up for that, you'll notice on the screen I've got nothing on the screen at all. No maps, no corner names, no shifting or anything like that. I love to race this sim in like full real mode with nothing showing at all. Find it's incredibly immersive, but also, in my opinion, or at least for me, help me learn the track a little bit faster. You really can concentrate on the track itself and not be distracted by everything else going on. So it was helpful to learn the track that way. The track itself is so detailed as well that you really can just concentrate on it. It looks different everywhere. It's very accurate. It's amazing, really. So we'll pull away to start the lap and quickly talk about the controls. So I've got the steering wheel and pedals set up, like I said in the intro, which is a little odd to begin with, but really makes it possible to have this smooth turning that makes it so much better, in my opinion. And so the steering wheel itself, I'll just stop again. Steering wheel itself controls the leaning of the driver. So it's not so much steering the bike as it is leaning the driver left to right, but it becomes pretty intuitive. I have the steering wheel set to 120 degrees, which is very small compared to a normal racing sim where you'd have, 900 or 1080. So 120 degrees makes it still very snappy, but, still have the linear motion that a steering wheel has, which makes it helpful. The pedals, of course, throttle and brake. I think if you had one of those Formula style rims with analog linear paddles on them, that would be a little bit better to control it, but you still get used to it with the foot pedals, and you really don't even feel like you're driving a bike. It does kind of trick your brain into thinking you're really riding a motorcycle through the Isle of Man, at least for me, so it's a lot of fun. But anyways, we'll throttle away, try not to fall off the bike right at the start, duck in, and start the lap. This is not going to be the quickest lap in the world, but it should be hopefully fun to go around, talk about the track and everything. We'll throttle past the start-finish line. There we go, start the lap, past all the fueling rigs and everything, and man, Isle of Man starts off with a bang, come through just an intersection here, and then head up towards Bray Hill, or head down really, over the top of the crest. This is such a steep part of the track, top gear. I'm actually going to lift out of it, chicken out just a little bit, but through Bray Hill, then over Aggo's Leap. I iconic spots on the track. A lot of photographs and videos and everything filmed there. But now come to Quarter Bridge, over the top of the crest. Quarter Bridge, a really slow corner, so you need to break it down 90 degrees to the right. Run a little bit wide, miss the apex, but now throttle back up and head on another small straightaway towards Braddon Bridge. Past all the spectators and little poles with some foam on that. I'm sure that'll help. Shift down a couple gears for Braddon Bridge. It's a long left-hander, and then switch quickly to the right. Run wide on both apexes, of course, but then throttle up. The road itself up here is quite nice and wide compared to later on the track, especially around this next bend. We actually have 3 lanes for just a second, which is almost unheard of around here. Try to stick to that center line as much as possible as we'll come up to Union Mills, then down a gear over the top of the hill. Just take it nice and easy. Want to be fast on the exit here in Union Mills. There we go, throttle up. Sets us off to a very long straightaway past a gas station there. A little more of a kink to the left, and there we go, straight. All the way up, we're going to go to top gear. So we'll head up the hill. There'll first be a kink to the right up here, which is pretty easy to take flat, especially in a bike like this. Here we go, to the right. Take that even a little safer than I did there. But now over the top, we'll come up to the Balagary. This is an insane corner. It's where Guy Martin had his big crash a few years back. I'll actually dip off the throttle there. Cut it in very close to the curbing on the inside. Makes your heart drop for a second. And then flat out now, down through Glenvine. Glenvine, actually a corner up here to the left. And this one, pretty much flat out in this bike too. Should be able to take it. There we go, flat out, but you need to get the line right, especially on the faster bikes. Now through Crosby, head up the hill. There's a little bit of a jump at the top here. I don't think we'll get much air on this bike, but we'll see if we get anything right at the top of the crest. Oh, just a little bit of a wheelie. Now over the top, still flat out. There's a long flat out section, one of the fastest sections on the course. But we'll come up here, we'll start to see the braking signs. We'll just want to let off the throttle, a little bit of brakes, but really just downshifting the gears, let the bike run its speed off, and head into a series of S's. Downshift one more time just to be safe. Throttle up, you kind of want to be on the throttle after the apex, or right about at the apex. Make sure you hit the corners well. Another series of S's here into Greba. There we go. Exit down, we have a little shoot here, a little flat out shoot towards Greba's Bridge, which is deceptively tight. It looks like it's going to be a wide corner, but the curbing will sneak up to you on the outside, so we'll take that nice and easy. Miss the apex a little bit on the inside, but we're all good. Now throttle away, we got 2 right-handers in front. First one's easy to see with the orange barriers. The second one definitely camouflages itself. There it is. It's a little tighter too, just to keep you on your toes. Now flat out over the crest, a lazy left-hander, and we'll look again for more of these orange poles and brake just before them very hard for Bala Crane. There we go, in the corner. Missed the apex again, but didn't hit the wall, so we're all good. Go through a chicane up here. And now head downhill. Really tight roads down here. This is where the track would be wet and foggy, even on the nicest of days, so we've really got it easy with what I've set up here. Take it easy on the entry. Make sure we don't brake too hard and go over the handlebars or anything like that. We'll take it easy through this section though. So easy to touch the curbing or run a little bit wide through a corner. Come up to Laurel Bank. Another great spectator spot, and head now towards Glen Helen. And Glen Helen, I understand, has got a great hotel, which would be an awesome place to stay for the TT if you have the opportunity. All right, come through a series of bends. It's an awesome technical section, one of the most technical on the whole circuit. But again, a lot of standing water and things here, even on the nicest of days. Come into Glen Helen then. There's the hotel to the left, and head up the hill. Ooh, a little bit wide there, almost running into the edge, but just make it now. Sarah's Cottage in front. We'll try to get a good exit here. So we'll head on to another really fast section of the track, up the hill now towards the Konkivadi Straight, I believe is how you'd say it. Not so straight as most of the sections of the track here are, but it is a flat out section. Come through a little kink, a lot like the Balagary section we went through earlier. We got a easy kink here, and then we'll come up to a really difficult kink. top gear. You can definitely take this one flat out on this bike. Put it in the left lane. Just wait for the entry. There it is. Turn it in. Run a little bit wide on the exit, but right back to the center line. Now come out of it. We'll brake here. Probably can go through this flat out and then brake. Shift it down a couple gears. Run against this wall to the right. Through here, there's a stone wall. It's so easy to run a little bit wide into. Shift it down a gear. There it is. Try to hug it on the exit though. Alright, head through McGuinness here. Now onto a little straight, and this will head us towards Barragero. Barragero, another one of those iconic corners on the Isle of Man. It's got two parts. We'll come up to the top of the Barragero here, down a gear. You can probably take this flat out if you're really good. Oh, the bike shakes there. Now down, whooshing downhill towards just a little keyhole of an entry for the bike. Lean it over and through. Some of the guys can take that so quick, and it's unbelievable. Now, towards the exit, a little bit of a fast section to run us out, and we'll head down a hill to the right and then to the left twice. And the second one actually tightens up again. Easy to get caught out here. Really not taking the right line through there, but I made it, which is what's important. Now head towards Kirkmichael, so we'll head towards the city section, which is in a lot of photographs and videos. Looks so awesome, the bike's running through here. Come to the entrance of Kirkmichael, quite slow. Now throttle up. Just the sensation of speed running through here with all the buildings to the left and to the right. Shift it up. Again, can't hit any of that curbing. You have to be really careful about where the wheels of the bike are. On the exit here too, the road is super tight, so we'll run it maybe 3/4 throttle. Nobody will know we're cheating. There, we'll come through the exit then. There's a left-hander here and a little bit of a hill, and you have to be as flat as you can on the bike over the hill, over the crest there. It's actually easy to lose the rear end of the bike and fly off the handlebars there, but now come through a series of S's as we work towards Bala Bridge. That's how I think of this section. All of these corners, of course, have names. I'm only naming some of them. But how accurate this track is quite unbelievable. I don't know if it's exactly laser scanning or LiDAR data or a little bit of both, but if you watch onboard footage from the Isle of Man and you've done some laps around this track, you can tell where you are on the track pretty easily. It's quite awesome, and it makes the sensation that much more fun. Alright, but we'll come up here, another lazy left and right, and head to Bala Bridge. You actually have to slow down a lot more for Bala Bridge than you might think. Just stand up there, get the bike slowed down. You don't want to go over this with any sort of speed, just roll the bike over. You'll see they do that in real life too. They don't jump it too much, you get a little air there. But now we'll throttle away. Through a forested section here. We have another left-hander and another one of those little jumps that can really end your day nice and easily. You'll straighten up the bike here, just nice and easy over the top there. You can barely notice it, but I swear, easy to end the ride. Alright, now head into the Quarry Bends coming up here. It's a beautiful section of corners. Shift it down a gear. It's tough to see, even on a nice day like this. Oh, I almost ran wide into the curbing there. There we go. But a nice set of corners, and you want to get the exit here nice because you head onto the Sulby Straight, which is mostly straight. A nice tunnel of woods, a little kink to the left there, but now straight on. Go past a church here. The objects whizzing by, top speed. We'll come to a kink to the right and take this flat out, but you need to be prepared on the exit. There we go, flat out, and now right about at that flag, brake quite hard for the Zulby Bridge. Taking the braking zone's quite easy, you can gain a lot of time there. But now throttle up, a little tight on the exit of the bridge section here. There we go. And now a really technical part of the track. This is one of the parts that I don't feel super confident on, so we'll take it easy just to get through it. A couple of left-handers here downhill. Oh, quite tight. Man, right next to the barriers there. That almost ended the lap. That'd be enough to pull the bike over and say, alright, I'm done. Alright, come through that section then. road is so narrow through here, which is one of the reasons it's so challenging. Just don't have a lot of space to make up different lines. And with a bike, it's not like a car where you can just turn it in and maybe brake a little harder or something. You're really committed on entry to the line you're taking. There we go, to the left, there we go. I got mixed up. Now to the right, we got a few of these barriers ahead. Another slower corner. Oh, I really leaned the bike in there, but held on just. A couple trees covered with foam, because that would help. This will spit us out towards the school. Right up to the curbing on the inside. Come through this right-hander. Oh, right up to the curbing again. There we go. A couple of signs. We got another kink, and then on to the straight, which heads towards Schoolhouse Corner and Parliament Square. Got a bike lane here on the left. Can always recognize it because of that. Tricky section right before this, but now break it down one gear into Schoolhouse Bend. Throttle up again for a second. Nice wide runoff there into Parliament Square. This is one of the best places, so I've heard, to watch the TT itself. Tight corner. Bikers have to break down to first gear. Now throttle away. So start heading uphill. Up and to the right here. Miss the apex a little bit, but not too bad. And come up to a left-hander, which is so hard to see. Easy to miss and quite tight. Miss the apex for sure. Now throttle up. Come up to another one of those iconic corners. The Ramsey hairpin. To the right here, now to the left. 180-degree hairpin. Definitely very slow. It's kind of awkward to get right in the sim. Not very graceful, but we'll try to do the best. That's honestly one of the better times I've been through there. Now throttle up. It's what I think of as the waterworks section. It's one of the corners' names. But this will lead us up to the top of the mountain. And we'll start that iconic run. Oh, almost ran wide there again. This is waterworks itself. Right against the inside. Down a gear a little bit. Could use the breather for a second. All right, here we go through a series of high stone walls on the outside to protect you. Another kink here, and we'll head to Gooseneck. There's another hairpin. And the final corner, really, before the mountain section begins. All right, throttle up now. It begins the mountain section, which is such a different experience than racing through all the forests and everything that we just went through this kink here. There we go. It's also equally as challenging, although you have more sight lines. It's so much higher speed that it kind of contradicts itself and is just as difficult as the rest of the course. Come through a little kink there. I think we're at Joey's now. This is where the bikes reach their highest speed over the top of the mountain. Also where fog can roll in and totally obscure the view. Come through an S here. Really lean the bike over now onto the mountain mile. Through this kink. There we go. All right. Flat out for a little while now. You can get a great sight distance on over the whole island, really, if you're daring enough to keep your eyes away from the road at any second. And it's my understanding that they actually modeled the entire island with this game. It obviously doesn't all have detailed scenery, but the elevations are there. The rough, texture of the whole island is actually present, so you can actually see the whole thing as you would in real life. Shift it down a gear here. So come to the end, the really fast section to start. Going so much slower through here than you can actually go. We'll come past one of the many little huts. And camera posts. I think one of these is called the Black Hut. There we go. Around the kink. To a left-hander here. Really coming through and over the mountain. It's no lie that you're going over the mountain on this part of the lap. Connecting back, really headed back towards Douglas. A little bit wide there. This part, mostly barren, not a lot up here, but we'll come around the next couple of corners and see the bungalow, which is an easy place to actually get to from Douglas. There's a tram. We'll run over the tracks coming up that can actually bring you up here. There we go, into the bungalow. I need to brake a little bit for this corner to the left. You can see the tracks right across the track there. Run over them on the bikes, a little bit of a bump. And now throttle up. Okay, so we've got 3 or 4 left-handers that almost look identical to get through, and I always count them off in my mind so I remember where I am on the track. They all have a little hut. We'll come to the first right here. So the first left-hander to end the mountain section. And throttle up. Come up to the second one here. Whoa, running really out wide. The hut's quite late on this one, but then throttle up. This will head us towards Windy Corner, which is a corner I always have trouble with, even though it's quite simple compared to some of the other ones. There we go. It's quite wide, but maybe that's why it's hard. Now, head towards, that's through the second one. We'll come up to the third one in a second. Get a great viewing distance off to the right. The little bollards whizzing by. Here we go. Third corner to the left. It's a quick dip. We'll come up to the final one. And this ends the mountain section. Come around towards Kate's cottage now. Get on the throttle and head through a kink. An easy one to run wide on towards Craigniba, which is a hotel and restaurant, I believe. Seems like an amazing place to watch the TT with the bikes flying towards you, then hard on the brakes here. Braking quite a bit earlier than I need to, but just want to make it through the end of the lap. To the right, lean the bike over, throttle away. Now really headed back towards Douglas in the end of the lap. Coming up to one of my most favorite corners on the whole circuit, actually. Through the trees, we'll come up to a little kink to the right to start. There we go, through kink to the right, and then this long left-hander. I'm not sure why I love this corner so much, but I think it's just because it's a nice flowing corner with a good sight angle. You can really lay the bike over and feel like you're going fast. Now throttle up. For the final time, really, on the lap. Come over the bridge here. Head up the hill. We get into another technical section just to test us one more time before we finish the lap. To the top of the hill then, towards Signpost Bends, the first of 3 kind of awkward right-handers that always lead onto narrower roads. We'll come through this right-hander here, curbs on the inside. There we go, down the hill. Under a little bridge here, trying not to go too fast. There we go. Now flat out for just a second. We'll brake hard again for another right-hander onto yet a narrower road. And throttle one more time till we come to really a ridiculous hairpin style corner into Governor's Bridge. Slowest part of the whole track right at the end, maybe to control the speeds. But back onto the main straightaway where we started. Whoa, and completing a lap just about at the Isle of Man. Come to the line, and you can imagine doing 6 of those for the senior TT at a much higher pace. But 6 are what the actual riders do during the main races, and unbelievable stuff. No safety to be had at all. Just stone walls and posts, and although there's some foam on them there, what does that really do? Obviously an event which takes its toll, but unlike anything else in the world, and so exciting to watch. So the Isle of Man TT sim here is, in my opinion, such a great change of pace compared to all the other racing sims. Love racing, love all of the set of courses and R factors and everything, Automobilista, but sometimes it's nice to change it up, and the Isle of Man TT is exactly what I'm looking for with that. With the steering wheel, although it's a bit awkward at first, once you get used to it, it's a lot of fun, makes it a lot easier to control, and it'd be awesome to try out one of those actual motorcycle rigs or something, but I think for now this is quite good. So I hope you enjoyed this, a bit of a deviation from the normal stuff, doing 2 wheels instead of 4. Definitely need to practice a little bit more, but hopefully an enjoyable lap around the Isle of Man TT circuit. Thanks for watching. I'll see you all next time.